David, I guess we'll start by talking about Gabriel Attal. Did he, in your opinion, meddle into Quebec's secularism debate?
Oh, absolutely, and it's normal. And you mentioned it earlier. It's the norm since 1967, since the Vive le Québec libre from General de Gaulle, that French premiers and French presidents will try to meddle and play a role especially in Quebec politics and the dynamics with the rest of Canada. And when there's these visits, every 2 years, either the Premier of Quebec goes to Paris or the French Prime Minister comes to Quebec and Canada. And there's always a little Easter egg in the speech for the party in power. And also about Gabriel Attal. He was just recently named, as you said as well, youngest prime minister in the history of the Fifth Republic. And he's a comer. And he is the chosen successor at this point of Emmanuel Macron, because the French president, he's term limited. And he's thinking already about who could continue his vision of France for 2027, the next presidential election in France. And remember that Macron and Attal are former socialists. And the Socialist Party in France has always been the closest ally of the Parti Québécois. And so all the connections, all the relationships that François Legault and his staff have brought over from the Parti Québécois, from the old Parti Québécois to the CAQ, those relationships are still very strong, and those contacts are still very strong. So this is not surprising that a Premier of Quebec who is, let's face it, in the total dumps in terms of popularity, will try to use this as a way to try to jumpstart anything that he can with his nationalist core. And on the other side, well, you have a young comer, young premiers trying to make his mark not only here in Quebec, but trying to score points back at home.
I guess the question I would ask then, he's here for a couple of days and off he goes. He's going back home, and this eventually will all get forgotten. But does François Legault get to use this as leverage for something?
He will try to use it as leverage, because what's going to happen is that tomorrow morning in the Journal de Montréal, at least one or two columnists, Mathieu Bock-Côté, Richard Martineau, or whoever, Jean-François Lisée will probably also be using this as well. So I mean, it's going to be a little something that is a diversion on the more important stuff, the fact that the economy is completely in disarray, healthcare is a mess, education's a mess, and with all of this, by talking about immigration and the French premier's visit and the speech today, you know what we didn't talk a lot about this week in the media here in Quebec? The fact that the OQLF of all organizations came out with actual data showing that between 2016 and 2022, actually, French is doing even better, and so we and on top of that, it takes attention away from the fact that on foreign temporary workers that Legault wants to limit and reduce. Well, the farmers in Quebec came out yesterday saying, you know what, Mr. Legault, don't touch that number because we actually need them and we are in a total crisis. We don't talk a lot about this here in Montreal, but right now our agricultural sector is in dire crisis right now, something that hasn't seen in 5-10 years, even more. And if François Legault gets his wish on foreign temporary workers, which are a fundamental pillar of our agricultural sector, it's going to hurt even more this sector that's in crisis. And a lot of farmers came out this week saying, please don't hurt us even more than we're already hurting.
David, let me shift from provincial politics, if I can, to federal. Another big announcement today, and I know we talked about this probably a week or so ago. This is the strategy, it would seem, for the federal Liberals, for Justin Trudeau. Announce something every day, throw enough stuff against the wall, hope something sticks. Now, I don't know what polls have shown since this started. Do you believe this resonates with voters?
I think what may resonate, I don't know what the ultimate game plan is, but the way I'm deciphering it is that if I'm looking at an election in September of 2025, which is the furthest date possible, what he's doing right now is obviously he's listening to his pollsters and his focus groups that are saying you have to take care, you have to focus and only talk about the kitchen table issues. And so the last Nanos poll 2 weeks ago showed that actually Justin Trudeau was starting to reduce the gap. The lead for Poilievre was 20 points. The last Nanos showed that the Liberals had closed it down to 12. Now, that's still a lot, no question. But we'll see what happens. But what he is doing, one, is that he is telling Canadians that he gets it. And he is focusing on what the priorities and what we know the priorities are for Canadians and Quebecers for over a year now. It's the cost of living, it's housing, it's inflation, it's the economy's stupid, and he gets it. So, is there still Trudeau fatigue? Would there still be Trudeau fatigue? Yes. But at the same time, if you look at a horizon of 12 to 16 to 18 months. Well, if the economy is doing better and people are feeling less insecure about their situation, that could make the difference. Because when we look at these polls, we sometimes get carried away, but at the end of the day, these are 338 ridings. And this prime minister has won 2 straight minority governments with 33% of the national vote. So right now he's in the mid to high 20s. If he gets a 2-3 point bump every 6 months, he's in the win zone. So we may not like it. It may not be interesting. We may find it difficult. But if he delivers on these housing starts, on reducing inflation, if the interest rates are coming down, if the pocketbook issues seem to turn around in a positive way, well, he could climb out of the hole. I'm not saying he's going to win a resounding majority in 2025, but he's taking away some of the issues that Pierre Poilievre scored all these points on.
Yeah, but I think today, like for the announcement today where they're going to build X number of homes, that number is 2035. This government will be long gone by 2035. Well, so many of these announcements, go to the future, and you know this government is not going to be there.
Agree with you. I totally agree with you. But let's say you actually see housing starts up tremendously in the Greater Toronto area, in the Greater Vancouver area. If you see the economy picking up, I mean, let's just say that the money is spent very quickly. That means the trickle-down effect, you will start seeing an impact on the economy of all these announcements in 12 months. So I'm not saying that we will have 3 million homes built, but if the supply is actually inching up much faster than it is right now, if all the economic impacts that are tied to these housing starts and all these investments actually start yielding dividends and show that the economy is actually turning around, well, again, in those key constituencies, again, Atlantic Canada, Montreal, and a few key regional ridings, GTA, Greater Vancouver area, Calgary, you might see enough. Again, the hole that he's in is not that big. It seems big. But when you remember that in 2019 and 2021, he was able to cobble together 2 strong minority governments with 33% of the vote. It's not that impossible. It's hard, no question, but it could happen if the economy does turn around and these dollars start showing dividends before the fall of 2025.
David, I don't want to run out of time, and I do want to touch on this last story. It's municipal, an issue here. What's going on in our metro stations? The city obviously announcing the other day they're going to increase not necessarily staff, but I guess coverage for 10 stations it considers problematic. What do you make of this?
I'm just saying this is putting a Band-Aid on a horrible, massive problem. Think about this. Crime is considered a top 3 issue for Quebecers and Montrealers, right? Safety is a key issue. And so what you're saying here, we're going to beef up security. No, the real problem is that, one, we're not dealing with the core problems, drug use, mental health problems. We're not putting enough funding, enough resources in those 2 massive causes for all these issues we're seeing. Homelessness is the other one. So you have to get to the causes. We're not dealing with those. 2, let's remember, a few months ago, Aaron, you were having guests on. What were you talking about? We were talking about the STM, how the city of Montreal is cutting funding to the STM. The reason why we have these issues in the metro is because the city of Montreal has decided that it's more important to invest $500 million in bike paths and Bixies than actually investing in the STM. And it's cutting the STM budget at a time where we actually need more resources and more people to actually help what the STM is going through right now. So both the provincial government not focusing on mental health and on drug use and on homelessness is accelerating a problem. And on the other side, the city of Montreal is cutting the STM's budget. So no wonder right now people don't feel safe in the metro. And this is a downward spiral because now everybody's going to be so shocked when in 6 months from now, the STM is going to say, well, ridership is down again. Well, guess what? You're creating the circumstances that are generating these horrible results for the STM. We have to invest more in transit and more in social programs and less in bike paths.
All right, David, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. You have a great weekend.
You too, sir.